Bonjour mes amis, hi guys, a collection review for a student from Switzerland who has already an impressive collection that many adults, grown-ups would really love to own. He prefers to stay anonymous, so we'll call him Mr. H. I have to say Mr. because the collection already is impressive. So Mr. H always loved staring at his dad's GMT Masters and Speed Masters and dreamed to have such watches in his own collection one day. And when he passed his high school exam there in Switzerland, he was gifted by his dad 2006 Speedy Pro. What a great way to start your journey. Then he started researching everywhere, and he bought a vintage 1965 Breitling Super Ocean, which he traded. And with the profit that he made, he managed to purchase almost entirely with that profit 2017 Rolex Submariner, a watch that he loves and will keep to his grave. So I have sorted out his collection by families. Let's start there with Rolex and Tudor. All right, so the best complement to have perfect foundations in a collection, the best complement when you have a Submariner and a Speedy, to me, is a Datejust that Mr. H doesn't even mention in his email. But this modern Datejust there with the blue dial, a smooth bezel, I think is fantastic. And when you forget about all the complications, vintage, modern, everything, and just look at the picture here, to me is such a standout. If you have to have just one watch, a Datejust is perfect, and this one with the blue dial, picobello. On the right side we have the GMT camp here. My first Rolex was a Polar Dial Explorer 2 16570. Here Mr. H has the same, again behind the wheel of a Porsche. Did you know I used to own two, actually, Porsche 928s, a GT and S4. Not my greatest moments, I have to say. It was fun for a short while until you break the gearbox, of course. And then you need to resell. Yeah, very nice Explorer 2 Polar Dial. Probably great looking in the snow as well if you're in Switzerland. And below that we have the very usable Tudor GMT Black Bay, just a super cool watch. I kind of miss mine as well. And I'm sure, Mr. H, that you're thinking the same as everybody else. If you could have the modern GMT Master 2, maybe you would replace those two, but cool watches nevertheless. And on the left side we have two vintages. One is our friend's prized possession. It is a 1971 Rolex Date with the bark bezel, very, very classy, very chic. And we have Rolex Oyster Date from 66 family heirloom, and probably the most elegant and versatile watch in the possession of Mr. H, as he says himself in his email. By the way, at the end of the email, he asks me, he tells me, where do you think I should go? Should I add something a bit more dressy, since I have a lot of tool watches? Well, I think, with the Date and the Oyster Date, you already have beautiful, important, dressy watches. Of course, it won't hurt in the future to add a Calatrava or a small complication, Patek, like a World Time, for example. As you progress in your journey, I think a World Time would look fantastic in this collection eventually. Or maybe you can reduce a collection and add an important Patek. I think that would be very nice, especially you're in the country where they make them, right? And otherwise a longer to have something German into the collection, Saxonia, maybe with a moon phase. That would bring a different flavor as well if you're looking for something dressy but already owning a Date, and especially if you love it. I think that's great. A lot of people buy the day dates, as a bit of a gateway into owning the day date, and then always look at the modern ones. If you love the vintage ones, like you, it's great. Be happy with that. But again, you could complete this Rolex collection with the modern president, the modern day date, yellow gold or white gold or rose gold. They're all, I think, really impressive watches. And I think a lot of people, when you move to that level of watch, it kind of overshadows the rest of the collection. And one day I will be there, but you're still very young. Maybe let's take it one step at a time and leave the president for after you've been working for a few years yourself, and maybe leave it to your 40s. All right, let's move on to the Omega sub collection. And here we have beautiful, perfect complements to your modern Speedmaster with the vintage Seamaster 300, probably the most beautiful diver design of Omega. I absolutely love this one. My friend Eric has one, often shares picture of it. I love the hands, the indices, nothing more to say. I think it looks beautiful, as you can see on the picture. And then we have a vintage early 60s Seamaster, one of Mr. H's earliest watch purchases. After a lot of research, it is often people's gateway into vintage. You have to be careful what you buy, of course, but you can see already that our friend here has great taste, great appreciation for vintage. Always a bit of a risky purchase, so you have to do your homework well. But here on the picture, I think this Seamaster vintage, the two Seamasters look stunning. Two different ends of the Seamaster family, and I wouldn't want to add a modern one to that. I think the modern Speedmaster is sufficient in this collection. This looks really impressive. And of course, one more box to tick is the Moon's watch. And having this one here, reminiscent of the Alaska project, which of course, if you could get, I would get. But here we have the mission to Mars. Very cool. A very nice little toy. And this Omega collection, what is there to say? What would you add to this? To me, it looks perfect. And moving on, we have another sub collection with the other brands. We have a 1967 Breitling Navitimer, gorgeous watch here on the left. The all-time favorite watch, vintage watch of Mr. H. I gotta say, it has a lot of character, and that's the sort of Navitimer that you want in your collection if you can appreciate vintage. Really wonderful. The watch in the middle, the Super Ocean, has been traded out earlier on in the journey already, as we have mentioned. Now the watch at the bottom right is interesting. It is made where not far from where our friend lives. It's an Oleg and a Wags. Sorry if I'm not quite sure how it's pronounced. ONW, a GMT from the Mirage collection. Apparently, he says only one of 10 of those Mirage GMTs. So most of the ones you're gonna see on a Google search are clearly value based. But this one here, you have the date on a circular date there on the right, and on the left apparently you have the addition of a GMT function. Interesting indeed, due to where it is produced and the complications that you get. So I think we all need that watch in the collection. That's interesting for all those reasons. Maybe not the one you're going to wear the most, but cool nevertheless. I have no information about the Cartier tank above there, but everybody again needs in the collection either a reversal or a tank. You went for the tank. It's the classier option, and I think it looks great, whichever tank you want. And if you find another one, you can always switch it up. So yeah, this last sub collection, I think it's wonderful. I really like this Navi timer. Looks perfect. So there you go. As I mentioned, this collection has a lot of maturity for such a young man. Really good on you, Mr. H. What I like is that you clearly have done your research. You don't go and spend, well, as some people are going to say, daddy's money unwisely. It seems already your first trade was a great trade, and you're building up great foundations and showing a great appreciation for the vintage, and you just don't buy garbage. You've got some great stuff there and a great balance between the complications and everything. So we've already talked about Rolex, and I've already mentioned I think maybe the way forward for you. I think from here you maybe want to reduce the purchases in this price bracket and look towards building up, maybe getting your first Patek. I think you already have the simple watches. I don't know if you'd want to have a Calatrava on top of it, but a world time complication, I think that would be a worthy, beautiful addition to this. And of course, as your journey progresses, you can the sky is the limit. If you can add a beautiful movement, a beautiful chronograph from Patek, that would be nice, or one from longer 1815 chronograph or a datograph. I think that's the next step for you is because you mostly have tool watches where the movement is going to be unfinished. I think maybe that's going to be the next progression into the collection, is having a beautifully finished movement into it. It can start with the Calatrava, and then you can move on maybe to Patek complication. I think that would be really great. Vacheron, of course, also wonderful watches, and like an American 1921 would look great to have another oddly shaped watch in the collection. Well, what can I say? Guys, leave your comments down below. Which ones are your favorites? What is next for Mr. H? I think thank you is the only thing we can say for sharing your passion with us, sharing your watch collection, and wish you all the best for your continuation. I think you're well on the way to build a sensational collection. Bye bye, guys.